Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today in our TAP webinar. My name is Cecilia Rivera, and I am part of the Innovative Finance team at the Global Secretariat. It's my pleasure to welcome you all in our TAP webinar, in which we will explain what the Transformative Actions Program is about, its mission and vision, the services our applicants can have access to, and the application procedure. So today I will present a very short presentation about what is TAP. Please, if my colleague can support me, showing the presentation, please. This webinar is organized for all local governments and other interested actors in applying to TAP. This is your webinar, so please feel free to interact as much as possible with us. Next slide, please. Before starting, I want to highlight the housekeeping rules for this webinar. Please note that the webinar will be recorded. Only the Q&A rooms won't be recorded. All participants will be automatically muted. However, during the Q&A, we encourage all participants to either use the chat box to type their questions or to unmute yourself to speak out loud. And all materials today presented will be shared with you after the webinar via email. Next slide, please. For today's webinar, our agenda will start by having a short icebreaker dynamic to get to know the audience. Second, we will have a general presentation about TAP, and afterwards, the audience will be split into different rooms depending on the language. In particular, the session will attend questions in Spanish, English, French, and Bahasa Indonesia. Finally, we will conclude with some closing remarks. Next slide, please. As I mentioned earlier, this webinar is dedicated for you all, and therefore we would love to know more about our audience. So I invite you all to access to Mentimeter by either going directly to the website and use the code that is presented there, or you can also use a QR code. The first question is about the country and the city you are from. So due to the time zone, I will expect to see many people from Asia mainly, or perhaps even from Africa and Europe. So please join us in this Mentimeter poll. People from Europe, interesting. Yeah, I can see people from Asia. If you can also include your city, that would be amazing. Hungary. Yeah, awesome. It's great to see that we have a variety of people coming from different countries. Also, if you cannot access to Menti, feel free also to use a chat box. From Africa. Cool. Yeah, so today it will be a very international webinar. It's a nice thing to have here. So let's jump to the second question, which is about your profile. So the question is, which institution or organization do you belong to? Do you work for the national government or the national government, an NGO, a city network, academia and university, for example, or even the private sector? Local governments, more city networks. I see here people saying in the chat box that they work for an NGO. Cool. So thank you so much for everybody joining us here. Although you are not working directly at the local government, TAP can also be interesting for you. And coming back to the presentation, the TAP, the Transformative Actions Program, is an initiative led by ICLEI, and its mission can be summarized in 3 pillars. First, TAP aims to enable access to finance to scale up local climate action. Secondly, it seeks the acceleration of net zero emission and climate resilient development. And lastly, support national ambitions through transformative local infrastructure projects. TAP is based on the premise that cities are in the front line of the climate change, and around 70% of them are already experiencing its negative impacts. And almost half of the world's population lives in cities, causing further strain on their infrastructure, services, and employment markets. And hence, local governments and local action is much needed. So however, local and regional governments, they cannot finance and implement the massive climate infrastructure projects. There are different opportunities outside that can support them. And in this context, TAP serves as a subnational demand-driven project pipeline of urban climate infrastructure projects. It acts also as a project preparation facility provider by offering tailored services to guide the project's development to achieve its maturity and be finance ready. And also it is an advocacy instrument where it will present the demand and the diversity of subnational projects seeking finance. Next slide, please. All our activities conducted we work closely with 16 partners, and this partnership includes a wide range of organizations and institutions. And by looking at this slide, you can see, for example, banks as the European Investment Bank, foundations as R20, and other city networks such as C40 city networks, and even UN entities such as UN Habitat. So we work together with all our partners, but we also are open to have more partnerships with other institutions. Next slide, please. One of our main funding partners is Urban Shift, which is a project funded by the Global Environmental Facility, also known as GEF, and is implemented by ICLEI and other 3 partners: the United Nations Environment Programme, the C40 Network, and the World Resources Institute. This project in particular aims to support cities pursuing integrated urban planning and implementation that delivers global environmental benefits. And TAP is included in the global initiative of Urban Shift as part of the finance offer. Next slide, please. In this map, you can see the cities Urban Shift is working with. And we especially encourage city officials from these cities to apply to TAP, as they will not only access to the TAP services, but additionally, they can be also part of other activities conducted by Urban Shift partners that could help you to further develop your project or develop your capacities. Next slide, please. And similarly, the Urban Transitions Mission Center is a platform aiming to mainstream actions towards climate neutral and net zero urban development on global level. And this year in particular, in November, we will organize a marketplace with them to present projects to different project preparation facility providers and potential investors. Next slide, please. Now, looking into the numbers of the program, it's important to first mention that the TAP was launched in 2015, and since then it has received more than 350 applications. Until now, we have counted more than 35 TAPed projects, meaning that these projects were financed or access to technical assistance. And as for now, in our pipeline, we have 64 projects that represent 1.2 billion euro of investment potential. Next slide, please. Even though TAP serves to all countries in all regions, the majority of the projects in the pipeline come from the Global South cities, In terms of the regional distribution, we can see that Africa is the region with more applications, followed by Latin America and Asia. And if we look closely to the investment needed in the sectors, we can notice that the 36% looks to be invested in energy-related projects, 19 in transport and mobility sector, and 15 in land use and nature-based solutions projects. Also in this graph, you can see that the type of sectors that the projects can be related are different. So we are not focusing on any sector. Next slide, please. So if you are interested in applying to TAP, first it's necessary to check the eligibility criteria. First, the application must be submitted by subnational government, but if it's not the case, then the submission must include a supporting letter from the local government saying that it is aware of the application and supports implementation of it. So in this case, if one university is working on a project, they can be connected to the local government to support the TAP application, or also it applies to other NGOs, city networks, and the private sector. The type of projects that can be accepted in TAP are only climate infrastructure projects, meaning that we don't accept projects that are focused on the development of plans or policies, inventories, etc. TAP looks for projects with transformative impact. And what would mean by transformative? It means that the project concept is ambitious in terms of the climate mitigation and resilience, that the project concept is inclusive by considering vulnerable groups, gender mainstreaming, etc. And also that the project concept is cross-cutting, meaning that it has an holistic approach, trying to interconnect different sectors. So for example, one project that is mainly dedicated to waste management can also have elements to generate energy. That's, for example, one of the approaches for an holistic approach. And in terms of the territory or the project maturity, TAP doesn't have any specific eligibility criteria in this regard. So it doesn't matter if the project is in the pre-feasibility stage or it's in the very early design. TAP can the TAP can provide you with support to attend any need at any stage. Next slide, please. So the entire process to apply to TAP starts with the mobilization of projects. It could be done by our partners and regional offices. And once the application is submitted, we proceed to screen it. In case there are some questions or more information needed, then the TAP team proceeds to communicate this directly to the applicant via email. And while addressing such comments and providing information, it is not necessary applicants to resubmit their applications, or it doesn't mean that the project is rejected. And once the project gets the score of 80% of transformative impact, then it obtains the TAP seal of approval and become part officially to our TAP pipeline. And here it's important also to mention that during the screening process, we share the scoring sheet we use, so the applicants can see how the scoring was calculated and how can they improve the application. So once a project is part of the pipeline, it gets fully access to all TAP services. These services include the access to different tools and capacity building, tools and materials, technical assistance opportunities, that can be informed via email, because all participants become part of our mailing list and they keep informed about these potential opportunities also. And they are invited to pitch events and marketplaces to pitch their projects and have a direct contact with potential project preparation facilities or investors. Next slide, please. So if you don't know how to start your TAP application, here we have listed some recommendations. As I mentioned before, we're gonna also share this presentation with you so you can go one by one. But first, I want to explain you a little bit what are the key elements for a good TAP application. While conceptualizing your project, please try to quantify the climate benefits of the project as much as possible. Prove also that the project has the support from the authorities of the government. And here it's important to prove the alignment of the project with local, regional, national, and international plans and goals, because this will prove the stability of the project, which is a main criteria when we do the matchmaking with potential investors. As I mentioned before, we look for projects that are holistic, meaning that they are not only thinking about the environmental impact, but also other elements, such as economic benefits and how the society will be benefited from it. Explain how the project can be replicable in other contexts and regions, and how the project concept could be scaled up. It's also a very important element for the scalability and replicability potential. If you identify any potential risk for the implementation of your project, don't forget to also include potential mitigation actions. Try to use reference as much as possible. So for example, try to get information from your emissions inventory or other projects or pilot projects that might be relevant for your own application. And demonstrate that the different stakeholders are engaged, not only the team that is designing the project, but also how the civil society or even the academia or the private sector can be also part or engaged in the project. And finally, it's very important to highlight that TAP assists projects to get access to either technical assistance or financing. And here it's important for all applicants to be clear about what is needed for the project so we can better know how we can assist you. Next slide, please. So if you're wondering why to apply to TAP, well, it has multiple benefits. All applicants will receive customized feedback and recommendations when they apply, no matter if the quality of the application is high or low. They become also part of our mailing list and receive information on potential opportunities that might be interesting for them. And they get access to our knowledge products that are available in our website. Also, they receive invitations to attend webinars and other peer learning and knowledge exchange workshops, such as the current webinar that we are having right now. And as I said previously, projects in the pipeline access to all TAP services, including the connection with financial and technical partners and experts. Here, I want to highlight that TAP doesn't provide any funding or any kind of financial support. We act, so to say, as the bridge between the local governments looking for finance and technical assistance and the potential providers for that. They can be also invited to marketplaces, pitch events, and in case the project access either technical assistance or finance, we also invite them to write a case study in which the project can have more international visibility. Next slide, please. So for this year, the TAP 2023 TAP call will be open in April 5th until December 15th. Those projects that might be interested in participating in the marketplace organized with the Urban Transitions Mission Center must apply before the last day of June so they can get screened and get to the process of being selected. And to submit the applications, it's only necessary to visit our website and click the button Apply that will be enabled when the TAP call is open. And then you will get access to our application forms that are available in English, Spanish, and French. Next slide, please. And in case you need more guidance on filling out the application form, in our website, you will also find a technical guide that will provide you with more explanations. And also you can consult our other tools, such as the finance decision-making tree, that will guide you to identify the most suitable financial instrument that you can use for your project. And also, if you are not sure if your project is bankable enough, you can also use our bankability checklist. Next slide, please. And we also have other tools such as that can guide you to find international and regional finance opportunities, tools, and reports. And also, if someone is not familiar with a finance topic, we also have a glossary with the most relevant terminology that is used in this field. And I want to conclude my presentation by telling you a successful story before going to the Q&A rooms. So I want to present the case of the city of Comayagua in Honduras. They developed a project called Green Zone for Comayagua. And this project in particular was developed in conjunction with the NGO, Ciudad Emergente, and the local government of Comayagua. And the project aims to improve the mobility of the city. As you can see in the image, they are currently facing many issues with traffic jam, accidents, and pollution from mobile sources. And in the right side of the image, you can see the pilot of the interventions that are proposed in this project. So the NGO applied on behalf of the city of Comayagua, but having the supporting letter to TAP in 2019. And and then they got screened and they become part of our TAP pipeline. And in 2021, Comayagua was invited to pitch at the Latin American Pitch event in front of experts from the European Investment Bank and the World Bank and other experts. And they received, after the pitch, suggestions and recommendations to improve the project concept. And after attending this event, the TAP team and the city of Comayagua started to prepare the expression of interest to apply to the GAP fund, which is a project preparation facility provider that support projects in the very early stage of the project preparation cycle. So now, and they got selected, and now they're currently working with the GAP fund, receiving technical assistance to conduct different studies, such as surveys for users. They are also checking the availability of different lines for e-buses, for example, and other studies. And also in the meantime, the TAP invited the project to be piloting one of the license of Source. And Source is a digital platform in which the projects can be structured following the international standards, and also to have direct connection with private and public investors that are part of the platform. So this is a good example on how TAP can engage a project in different activities, and that there is the possibility that one project can receive support from different channels. So this is my presentation for today, and now we would love to hear from you all your questions or opinions you may have. And as I mentioned earlier, in this particular session, we will have the opportunity to have two groups. One, if you prefer to say your questions in English, Spanish, or French, please stay here in this main group. And for participants that wants to also include questions in Bahasa Indonesia, please click on the link that we will share in the chat box to be part of the separate group number 2. Thank you so much for attention. And again, this webinar is for you, so don't hesitate to ask any questions or even to share with us your opinion about the program. We will be sharing now the link for the group number 2, so please give us a couple of minutes for that.
Hi, everyone. So just that everybody is clear on that. So you are now in group 1. If you want to go to group 2, then you have to click on the link that was shared in the chat. I'm just saying it because apparently most of the people remained here, but it would be good if we have an equal distribution between the 2 groups. So please consider to click on group 2. Okay, but meanwhile, maybe we can start to answer the questions. So, but first of all, before getting there, let us introduce us. So it's Esther Magyarosi from ICLEI World Secretariat. I'm head of the Innovative Finance team and also managing the Transformative Actions program. And I'm here today with my colleague, Jaume, also part of the team. And we would like to use these approximately 15 minutes to answer your questions regarding the TAP. So this is now really your time to ask really whatever you would like to understand better based on what you heard or any other questions you might have. I already see one question that you mentioned cities in the presentation, and then any subnational territory level could apply. Can metropolitan borough councils also apply? We neighbor a city and we are part of a combined regional authority as well. Yes, this is also possible. I'm not sure exactly from where you are, but indeed any subnational territory level can apply. And as Stacey also said in her presentation, even other partners than local governments or regional governments can apply for the TAP. It's just in that case, as we are ICLEI, a city network working with local and regional governments, in the case if this is a private company or if it's an NGO or a CSO or a research institute, we just really have to be sure that somehow the project is also supported by the local government or by the regional government. So we really have to be sure that there is a political buy-in and it's not just, for example, a private company getting the money and getting rich. What is the, I see another question. What is the eligibility for application? Can NGOs apply? So yes, NGOs can apply, and actually, so this is the same rule, just what I said, that in the case of an NGO application, we need a support letter from the local government or any other proof that can show that the local government will remain the final beneficiary of that project. Regarding the other eligibility criteria, so we have no criteria regarding the size of the project. We also have no criteria regarding the maturity of the project. And this is why we work with a large group of partners. So we don't have funds on our own. So TAP is not a technical assistance or a grant or a DEB opportunity. But for the projects, we look for opportunities, the most suitable for them. And that's why we accept all kinds of sizes and all level of maturities, because we work with this wide partnership, and each of them, they have different priorities. So one are looking for more smaller scale projects, some are looking for large scale projects. So that's why we would like to keep this, this diversity in our TAP work as well. What are the key focus areas for the application? Also, Nikita asked this. What I think it's very important to emphasize is that the application, the project has to be an infrastructure investment project. So this is, I think, what has to be made very clear. We focus in our screening process on the transformative impact potential of the project. Meaning that it's based on 3 pillars, like being ambitious, cross-cutting, and inclusive. So we check if the project has really a very meaningful impact, if a good portion of the population would benefit from that project, if the project is replicable, if scalable, if it's aligned with SDGs, with the Paris Agreement. We check if vulnerability groups were considered, the youth, the gender. We also check if the project has a cross-sectoral approach, if it integrates both adaptation and mitigation measures. We have a long list, but basically if you fill out the application form, you will see all these questions. So by filling out the form, you anyway answer all these questions, what I just listed. So this is our main focus. We also have questions in the application form regarding the project's financial maturity and financial viability. But this is not a criteria to be approved in the pipeline. This is more an information for us because, as I said, we don't have funds on our own, but as we are working as a matchmaker, enabler, connecting the projects with opportunities, for us, this information on the financial features of the project is critical to understand what are the opportunities potentially being suitable and available for the project. Then there is another question from Evgenia. Could you comment a bit about the size of the TEP project? So yes, indeed. So just as I said, we have no criteria regarding the size. Still, what I would like to emphasize that if you look at international financing opportunities, then don't submit a small-scale project because we mostly work together with development financing institutions, climate funds, private investors, and usually under 1 million euro, they are not really interested. They will not engage. For the small-scale projects, what we receive at ICLEI, we have 27 regional and country offices all around the world. So we work closely together with them. And for the very small scale projects, even closer, because our regional and country offices are the ones being on the ground, knowing the country and the context, and also having contacts potentially to reach out for CSR funds or local private companies or embassies, which potentially could offer funding also for small scale projects. Another instrument what we are exploring is crowdfunding, which also finances usually either small scale projects or just a very, very small part of a project. But in general, we don't have any criteria regarding the size. So yes, so even small municipalities are encouraged to apply. If we have...
We have 3 questions from Mr. Radon. Do you see them in the chat?
So just if you can help me out, yeah. Are public lighting infra projects eligible? Yes, very much. We have not even one in our project pipeline. And this is a good project. We really like it. And they usually really have a transformative impact potential. Also relative easy to get the financial institutions' interest for that. So absolutely encouraging. We also had a public lighting infrastructure project where we even worked together with private sector. So it was a small scale one. So in general, absolutely, yeah. Public lighting infra projects are very much encouraged and considered. Then what were the other questions, Jaume, you referred to? Because that was the one.
The second question is, many requests received from municipalities across Africa and North Macedonia. Are they eligible?
Yes, yes, we work globally. We have most of our projects at the moment from Africa, like I think 2/3 of the pipeline projects come from Africa. Every year, most of the applications we receive from Africa. North Macedonia, yes, absolutely eligible. So yeah, we are a global organization, and we have offices everywhere. I see another question coming from, yeah, sorry, I just started to read, but then it jumped. So Grace, does TAP have a network of investors, or do you work on case by case? Both. So we have 16 TAP partners. With them, we work together on a regular basis. So once the projects are approved in our pipeline, this is the first exercise what we do, that we inform our TAP partners that, for example, now the 2022 call closed. So these are the new projects what we approved in our pipeline and we received. Is there anything you can offer? So we check first with them, but then indeed constantly we look at opportunities and then we connect the projects case by case whenever we see a suitable call or opportunity coming out for our projects. So actually we do both. Again, I think a question from Redon, and sorry if I'm leaving out questions, then Jaume, please just point me to those. So there is one, can we have access to inform public lighting in the pipeline to understand the scope and their feedback? This I have to check what kind of information we can share, but we are happy. If we can, I'm really happy to do that. A general information you can always find on the TAP website on all the projects, what we have in the pipeline, and also projects which are so-called tabbed. Tabbed, we mean when a project managed to either access technical assistance or if the project managed to access finance. I have to say that most of the projects, most of the tabbed stories are accessing technical assistance, because simply the majority of the project applications that we receive, they are very, very early stage. We rarely receive projects that already have all the technical and financial studies ready and basically are already in the stage of structuring, procurement, and looking for investment. So, but we also have such cases, but most of our projects actually still are at the very early stage looking for further support in their project development. Jaume, is there any question that I forgot to answer?
There's one last question from Redon.
Okay.
If you can describe what basics infos will be required in the application to understand the preparations to be done.
So what is very important part of the application is that we really have to understand clearly your project idea. So, and here try to think about us when you write that part, when you fill out that part, that this is the first time we hear about the project. So we really need to understand what are your objectives, what is the problem, the challenges that you would like to address, and what are the expected outcomes and results of the project. So what do you want to achieve? So this is really critical, because if we don't understand what is the project about, then yeah, we might just lose our interest. But then what is very important as well is that we understand also if the project is politically supported, if it's supported by stakeholders, because yeah, we already had projects, unfortunately, which were very good, but they had no support. So it was a great idea of someone without proper support behind, and then we just really couldn't move on with the project. So this is something we really take care to understand if stakeholders are committed, they were mapped, they are committed, if there is support from the local government. And in the Global South countries, although we don't require, but still as reality shows, also the national government support is needed if you want to access international financing. We, as I said, we check very much the inclusivity part and the people. So we have a people-centered approach, and we check if gender was considered in the project concept, if vulnerability groups, indigenous people, local businesses were considered in the project concept. So I think basically those are the most important parts of the application form.
There is one more question in the Q&A.
Yes.
Can you access it?
I'm not sure. So I can read that I have seen the list of questions. If the TAP technical guide, in the TAP guide. Thank you. Yes, okay. I don't consider this as a question, but indeed, I don't know if this is what you meant, German, but what is really a good point, and many thanks for that, Redon, that indeed we developed this TAP technical guide, which is basically a step-by-step guide for those that first time are planning to apply for the TAP, to explain what it is, what the eligibility criteria are, and really trying to explain it as easy and understandable as possible for someone who first time meets this opportunity. Yes, so, and then there is a new one, if I see it correctly. You mentioned cities in the presentation, and then that any subnational territory level could apply. Yes. Can metropolitan borough councils apply? Yeah, that we answered. Yes, they can. So any kind of subnational territory level can apply. I think we are running out of our 15 minutes, but if there is a question I didn't see or didn't answer, I'm very happy to do that. If we answered all the questions, then I would just say no, we are not going back. We are in the main rooms. Okay. So then we basically have to stop when the other group joins, right, Roman? Okay, perfect. Yeah, so maybe just again to clarify that the application forms will be available on the 5th of April on the TAP website. So at the moment, if you go to the website, you only see that the application will open, but you don't yet see an apply button. So on the 5th of April and after that, until the end of the year, if you go on the website, you will see an apply button, and there you can access the digital application forms. Usually we don't have problems with applicants filling out the digital application form. Still, if you face difficulties, then reach out to us using the TAP email account, which maybe we can share again, but it was also shared in the presentation. So there, we are always there for you, and we can help with you even then downloading the application form. But our preference is that they are filled out digital. How long the screening will last? So we do the screening on a rolling basis. So it's not that now we are collecting the applications and then we wait until 15th of December and then we start to do the screening. So once we receive the application, then usually the first feedback that you receive from us, it's in a month's time or so. And then depending on the quality of the application, it's often a dialogue actually that starts, because we receive the application, and again, I just would like to remind you that all the information what we know about you and about your project, it's what we receive. And sometimes it's not easy to understand everything just reading that application form. But then we will come back to you potentially with questions, clarifying questions, and we conclude our screening only after we have all the information we wanted to have. it also happens that sometimes the applicants, they forget to attach documents like, for example, the support letter from the local government, or they forget to attach the available pre-feasibility studies or assessments or whatever studies they already have available. So then we go back to them that, okay, in your application form, you indicated you have a study available. We would like to see that. So it's a dialogue starting, but approximately, yeah, the first feedback you get in a month's time after your application was submitted. From Mar, is there a different deadline for the UTM members? Yes and no. So we are planning to organize a marketplace in the frame of the UTMC project in November. We don't yet have the date. We just only know that it will be a virtual marketplace in November. So in case you want that your project is considered for this marketplace, then we have to get the application by the end of June, because we need time to screen the projects, we need time to then select the projects, we need time to prepare the project for the marketplace. So in case you are interested to be considered and participate in the marketplace what we organize in November, then you have to submit your application by end of June. If you say that I'm not ready yet, marketplace maybe next year, then you have time to submit your application by the 15th of December. So we organize marketplaces usually once a year. So if you miss this year's marketplace, there will be other opportunities. So this is the differentiation regarding the deadlines. There is a question from Isabel. Is there a planned end date for the TAP program, or is it anticipated it will be open each year? Yeah, so far the TAP was launched in 2015, and I mean, since then it's been quite successful. So until we see the need, I think we will just continue. The only question what sometimes we raise if we should keep annual calls or simply accept projects on a rolling basis. But answering your question, Isabel, certainly we plan to continue with the TAP program, and definitely this call is not the last call. Great. Are there any questions I missed, Jama?
No.
Okay. Yeah. No, but I'm really happy for receiving your questions, and yeah, I mean, we really try to keep TAP a demand-driven project preparation facility and pipeline. We also organize a lot of webinars, which we always organize targeted to your needs, to the local needs. They are open publicly. We just had one actually on public-private partnerships, and yeah, potentially we will do another one later this year as well. So feel free anytime to reach out to us using the TAP email account. We are really there for you to have a conversation and support your project idea. Yes, there is no limitation, and we indeed have project applicants with whom we have multiple projects. So indeed, yeah, very much encouraging you to do that. If you have a lot of good ideas, I mean, there is no limitation. But as I said, this is certainly not the last step call. So in case you want to work and focus on one application this year, and if you then next year would like to submit another one, definitely there will be the opportunity to do that.
Responding to the question from Isabel, yes, please. We also welcome any very early stage project. We take that into consideration as well, and there are different pathways we can go through. And we're happy to receive your application, even still at the very early stage.
Yeah, I think we haven't answered the question on, could you clarify project operation facility main partners and typical project value of project for technical assistance? So here we work very closely together for the early stage projects with the GAP fund. So this is a fund managed by the European Investment Bank and by the World Bank. And as I already mentioned, so the focus is really on the stage up to the level of pre-feasibility. They also accept projects on a rolling basis. You have to submit an expression of interest form, and their main focus is on the impact potential of the project, which not necessarily budget-wise, but in general, understanding if the project brings a solid impact in the region. And regarding other project operation facilities, we work together with. We work together with UNCDF, FMDV, UCRG, managed International Municipal Investment Fund, which is a technical assistance, but then also equity investment opportunity at the end. And they are, of course, looking for more mature projects already. So the technical assistance, what they provide, this is already for the very, very last part of the project preparation, basically really just to get the project ready for equity investment. Similar, and they are looking for more larger scale projects. So in this case, definitely nothing under 1 million euro would be considered. But this always depends on the project operation facility, those criteria. In general, but I can just say again that if you look for international opportunities, then I definitely wouldn't suggest you to submit an application which is below 1 million euro.
Do we have any more questions?
Mm-hmm. So who can we contact after the webinar? Yeah, so that Jaume, you answered. So this email address, which actually you can also find on our website, this is an account what our team manages. So anytime you can reach out to us. Then one more question. Have you identified that projects related to climate smart city solutions have interest of investors? Yes. I'm not sure what you exactly mean here, but absolutely, this is what we see or what we experience, that even if it's private investor or even if it's public financial institute, then indeed climate smart city solutions are usually preferred solutions and also supported. Just seeing another question meanwhile from Jimmy Omar. Hi, Jimmy. PPP can work well. We have a challenge where local government, subnational level think that private organization has money, should do everything on a project, which they are to work on in partnership. What should private organization do where local government at local government is a supervisor for the project? So I'm not sure I understand it clearly, but so in this public-private, so this is already an existing public-private partnership, right? Or is it something what you are still planning to set up, or the local government is planning to set up? So there are different type of contracts and agreements the public and the private the public and the private partner can make, but actually the responsibilities should also always be very clearly defined in those contracts and agreements. So regarding the responsibilities, which partner brings in with a clear timeline, regarding the expertise, regarding the financial aspects. So I really would need a bit more context regarding this, but I also maybe would like to draw your attention to a toolkit, what we recently developed. It was exactly on public-private partnership. And with this toolkit, we can put the link in the chat as well. So with this toolkit, we really wanted to bring in clarity in a very practical and pragmatic way regarding public-private partnerships, starting really from the definition, what a public-private partnership is, but then really going through step by step, also listing all the type of contracts, giving examples for the different type of contracts, where you can also read them more, what is the responsibility in this type of contracts of each parties. So really to set up the public-private partnership, also how the SPVs work in a public-private partnership. So it's a very, very practical toolkit, what we developed and just launched. And yeah, thanks, Jaume. So so you just can access that through this tool. Okay, Isabel has to go. Fine. Actually, I'm not sure what's happening with the other group because it's 11 o'clock, so we should end the webinar. And we plan to have 15 minutes for the questions.
They're still wrapping up their questions.
Okay.
There's many.
Perfect. Yeah. Is it the one from Mar? That's what you're referring to, John? So I have seen that in the application, you ask to quantify co-benefits, which is sometimes difficult indeed. Yeah, we ask this because usually also the potential partners we connect the project with, they ask the same questions. So I know it is very difficult and we don't have, unfortunately, tools for that, particularly when we speak about the social and economic benefits. Regarding the environmental benefits, there are several tools available. So, and here I also understand that for projects which are particularly at the very early stage, this is often not possible even because they are still before developing all the technical studies necessary for their project. So they cannot even have any quantified information, not even on the expected environmental impact. So this is something that actually when we do our screening, we also differentiate when this is an application, which is basically a project idea at a very early stage. So there we, of course, we are happy if you can already give us some quantified information, but this is something that we don't expect. If the project already claims to be a more mature project, then you already have to have information on those, because if you are a mature project, then you already have to have all those technical and financial studies available and all those assessments available that have to contain this type of information. So as the other group is still not back, and I see that a lot of people are leaving meanwhile, I really would like to thank your attention. And if you have time, then please wait, the other group is back, but otherwise, yeah, I just really would like to encourage you to reach out to us with any questions you may have using the TAP email account and submit your application.
then again, when the other group join us, they can also share part of the questions on what they have discussed about, which can be also very relevant. So we encourage you to stay, but at the same time, we thank you for your attention today. There's one more question from Jamie Omal. Do we have funders who are willing to fund and invest in clean cooking energy in developing countries?
In general, yes, of course, there are. But yeah, they will invest in the project if the scale is big enough. So yeah, I mean, they have to see exactly the project parameters. But in general, this type of projects are very much liked and supported. And also regarding their social impact, they are considered to be quite solid enough. So definitely, in general, I'm supporting you to submit such application. And yeah, funders potentially could be interested as well. So Ceci, I see you're back. So meanwhile, a lot of people dropped off, waiting for you to come back with group 2. So I'm handing it back over to you.
Thank you so much, and sorry for being late, but we have a very active group 2 discussion, many questions and reactions about TAP. But in general, thank you so much for you all for your participation in our webinar. I want to also especially thank our colleagues in our regional offices, the regional coordinators of Urban Shift, and also all our partners for having promoted TAP. So there is no doubt cities around the world need support for their climate infrastructure projects. And as we see today, TAP acts as a bridge to facilitate them to get access to what they need to make their project be implemented. So we expect to receive your applications and work together with you all. We remain at your disposal, and visit our website to get more information about us. Thank you so much, and bye-bye.
Thank you very much.